Ladies and gentlemen, the video game world is healing. Now, I know you see canceled projects and you might think, Don, how are things healing? You know, if there's canceled products, if there's people that are losing their jobs, there's hardworking developers out there in the point and click minds that are just working minutes a day in between, wine breaks and screeching on Twitter. There's some hardworking developers out there making sure they adhere to a comprehensive dilation schedule. How could you possibly applaud canceled projects? I know I'm being a tad bit facetious, but I'm somebody who's actually sticking up for the industry and not wanting them to just burn piles of money like they have been over the past, how long? Decade plus. Just seeing something that I used to love and support so much that now at this point in time, like, I bought a couple of copies of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but outside of that, not really that enthusiastic with a bunch of the releases on the horizon. Like, honestly, shit that's coming out this year, I don't think, it's very unlikely that I'm going to be buying a new game, okay? Monster Hunter Wilds might be fantastic. I've never really liked the Monster Hunter games. I played the one that was on the Wii U, okay? Like, I was somebody who bought the Wii U, for Christ's sakes, and I have a pretty... I think my Wii U library is actually larger than my PS4 library. It's definitely bigger than the PS5 library that I have, I can tell you that for sure. But no, there's some rumors about the price point of the Nintendo Switch 2, and no, I'm not going to be getting that. But I know a lot of people will, because Nintendo has built up exceptionally good reputation, and if they just continue to march to the beat of their own drum, they're going to be fine. Whereas the rest of the greater gaming industry and some of the shit that they want to try to start pulling off, I can see fewer and fewer people diving headfirst into the content pool, and you'll be seeing a lot of developers diving headfirst off the top of these buildings. But the unannounced Warhammer, there was an unannounced Warhammer MMORPG, what is this, 2008? Game is scrapped due to a lack of funding. Now, Warhammer is set for a bit of, I wouldn't say resurgence, because there's always a base level of appreciation for the franchise, okay? But it was about ready, and it's about ready to start hitting the mainstream here in the next couple of years with Henry Cavill's Warhammer TV show. On the gaming side of things, I mean, Space Marine 2 showed you that it's, really easy with this IP to make a fantastic game. But then, of course, you got the rights holder, you got Games Workshop doing goofy shit with the Femme Custodies and always trying to find a way to put in female Space Marines at any given point in time. The Embracer Group just continuing to trip over their own dicks when it comes to ruining franchises that they acquire for pennies on the dollar. Like, there's no reason that Warhammer shouldn't be in a bigger spot and have more of the market share that it does, but instead it just continues to retain a very small corner, and they continue to do their best to drive off their very, very deep pocket audience whenever they have the chance. But let's take a look at this here real quick. An unannounced Warhammer RPG has reportedly been scrapped due to its publisher changing strategic direction and a lack of funding. Yeah, no, we wanted to make this big sprawling RPG, but we're gonna go ahead and change course and do a mobile game because we don't have any money. As originally reported by MP First, Daniel Erickson, the chief creative officer at Thought Pennies. Okay, shared on LinkedIn about 2 months ago. Over the last 3 years at Thought Pennies, we built something amazing. We never missed a milestone. Our feedback was great. Our partnership strong. But from 2 people at a PowerPoint to a team of almost 60 heavily vetted, incredibly independent, passionate professionals, our publisher changed strategic direction. However, and our previous project is now without funding, last week we had to shrink the size of the studio. Oh shit, that very much sucks. It is believed that the game that Thought Pennies was working on was the Warhammer RPG, given a number of former employees shared that they were working on an unannounced Warhammer game. Lead lighting artist Sanjay Chand, his LinkedIn profile noted that he was working on an unannounced Unreal 5 Warhammer title. Oh, okay. That's something else that I despise in today's day and age, leading with what engine you're working on. See how amazing our games are going to look? Well, how are they going to play? But they look really nice. Okay, we get what you're saying. AC Stop also shared on his LinkedIn unannounced Warhammer game, implemented Topo Taylor's runtime landscape, deformation plugin for Unreal 5, procedural world composition, post-process lighting shaders optimization. Okay, so that's what he was working on over there, and a bunch of other people as well. So yeah, the idea that we've got some out of work he, him, they, them, she, hers. I'm not really that sad because, okay, on his website, Thought Pennies is described as a fully remote role-playing game game studio rather, creating games with social storytelling. Thought pennies exist to bring full social storytelling to role-playing games. We are here to bring to life the dream that we all had. The first we heard, there were massively multiplayer RPGs of players living their distinct RPG fantasies in a community of like-minded people. Yeah, you've already lost me with way too many trigger words. So yeah, the fact that you guys are closing down doesn't really imbue in me a lot of sadness of talented people. It just kind of tells me that, you know, there's some ideologues out there on the street begging for pennies. Well, hopefully Starbucks is hiring. The same thing that I got to go with, you know, some people that are at least a little bit more talented, theoretically a little bit more talented over at Bluepoint and Ben's staff learned their live service. Oh shit, you were working on a live service game for PS5. Oh shit. The fact that you're working on, you know, stuff like that after seeing Concord flop the way that it did last year, you probably should have known that your time was up, but they were canceled at the same time as everyone else. Oh, interesting. Okay, the development team are working on Sony's two most recent canceled live service games. Yes, one of them was going to be, get this, okay, like you should probably know that you're not in for a good time if you're going to be working on a live service God of War game. What the fuck? How does, like, I've got ideas, but none of them really sound that strong. Like, what are you guys doing? God, Sony, man. But apparently they weren't aware of the news in advance. It claimed. All right, last week it was reported by Bloomberg's Jason Schreier. God, it was hilarious to see, you know, the look on that fucking little gremlin's face when, what was it? Back when Dragon Age the Veilguard dropped, right? He said, oh, get woke, go to the top of the charts. And what just happened? BioWare's on life support, and its destructive creative director just went deuces. Hilarious. But yeah, let's see what this idiot has to say. And subsequently confirmed by a spokesperson that Sony had canceled live service games in development at Ben's studio and Bluepoint Games. Oh, but he's also trying to say in this update as well, because he's over on Blue Sky, you know, where all of the best and brightest of society and people that are also on lists and have to knock on their neighbor's door when they move in, that's where they use social media. People across the organizations were informed before my article went out last week. Yeah, just showing once again such the incestuous relationship between games journalists and the people working on the inside. Gross. While Schreier's article didn't describe the games in detail, he then took to Blue Sky to confirm that the game Bluepoint was working on was a live service God of War title. Fucking why? Now, according to journalist Jeff Grubb, okay, in his latest Game Mess morning show, it appears that staff working on the game found out about the cancellation when the report was published. Apparently not. Go back to just ripping off Grums and Smash JT, you fat-headed asshole. I've looked into this a little bit. Yeah, all of this is true. The two studios found out at the same time as everyone else. People will be working, going to work the next day wondering, hey, okay, what are we going to do next? What I'm going to have to do next is very likely is to pitch something to Sony, and the landscape changed pretty drastically. Grubb suggested that both studios will have a harder time proposing new ideas to Sony before its closure of numerous live service games means it's not currently clear what types of new games it's looking to greenlight, because yeah, a live service God of War game, like, there is still a thirst and an appetite out there for more God of War stuff. I mean, God of War Ragnarok, from the people that actually played it instead of the people that just want to commentate about it, about, oh, it's just all about Kratos being sad and pathetic, and I love old God of War games because you could have boobies and you could have quick time events with just, you know, chicks moaning in the background. That's really cool. That's peak gameplay, and David Jaffe's a god until you listen to that fucking woke psychopath. But anyways, nothing against those old God of War games. I loved them. I played the shit out of them to begin with, but God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok are some of the best games ever made from both a gameplay and a narrative perspective. But I digress. Whenever I see live service, it's like I immediately get turned off. God of War, from what I can remember, I don't think it's ever had multiplayer. I really don't think so. Or at least not a notable one. So outside of just a cynical cash grab, why is it a prime target for a live service game? Like, it's arguably your strongest IP for as much as you want to push that stupid Horizon stuff with that unlikable and unfuckable Alloy. It's never going to work, Sony. So perhaps you focusing your eye squarely on Kratos, it's a smart move, but making it a live service game at a point in time where, yeah, okay, the biggest game right now, the one that's being most talked about, Marvel Rivals, so it's a live service game, we know, and eventually there's a reason why all of these studios continue to try to strike that vein of gold. It's because it's an endless supply, and when one hits, oh, it's very successful. It's just if you guys are going to be the last console standing, okay, when it comes to mainstream gaming that's not specifically Nintendo, because Nintendo's out there kind of doing their own thing. Maybe they're going to be getting some old ports of games, but graphically speaking and performance-wise, it's not going to keep up. We've seen some of the leaks, some of the specs for the Switch 2 that they haven't confirmed yet. I think more of that information is coming out in a couple of months. But yeah, it's not going to be able to keep up with what the PS5 Pro, and there's also some leaks about the PS6 coming out in 2027, which is just so wild to think about. You just released the PS5 Pro, which hilariously nobody's talking about and nobody's buying. But yeah, no, we got the eye to the future for something that's just going to be another marginal improvement, because if these developers actually worked on optimizing games, we wouldn't need these bigger and bigger graphics cards and more RAM. Like, if they could properly do their job, we wouldn't need AI upscaling and frame interpolation technology to paint over all of their shoddy craft work. But no, if Sony wanted to do something unique, they would focus in on their genre of games, you know, the third-person action-adventure game, which, yeah, when they do it good, they do it exceptionally well. It's just, you take a look at the shit that they've produced lately, God of War notwithstanding, and you got Naughty Dog's output. Is anybody excited for Intergalactic? Yeah, exactly. Anyone up for another Alloy outing? No. Forbidden West, I thought it was repurposed DLC that ended up being a launched PS5 title, and that Lego Adventure Games did absolutely nothing. Why aren't we working on, you know, doing something great, something that Sony used to do? Like, hell, you just put out Astrobot. Everybody who played Astrobot loved it, and it paid homage to your history. You can't drum up any of those old icons of the past. Like, just again, okay, taking a look at what Sony is, or I'm sorry, what Microsoft is dying on the vine. No, taking a look at what Nintendo's doing by properly paying homage to its legacy IPs, by constantly innovating and iterating on those legacy titles. Sony, you could do exactly the same thing as the lone console remaining as Xbox continues to move off to Game Pass, even though that's failing as well. I could see Microsoft very much being out of the gaming space when it comes to making first-party titles. Okay, I could see them very much getting out of that business before the end of the decade and just simply trying to become the Netflix sans first-party titles of gaming and just have a steady stream of income that way, licensing different titles from different studios. But Sony, if you're keen on continuing as a brand, as a first-party developer, you need to flush the freaks out of the system. And somebody that you have over here, okay, a couple of your loudest advocates, okay, in case in point, Alanah Pearce. Jesus Christ, Miss Situational Disability. You know, Elden Ring needs a pause button because there's kids that might need attention to be paid to. That entire argument is actually even worse than it was, you know, clipped out to being. But I digress simply. But this is just a conversation between a positivity peddler, you know, somebody who's just toxically positive. Everything's great, minus the fact that the entire industry is burning down because, you know, you can't make competent games anymore. And if you do, you piecemeal them out in general. Or there's just such a blanket apathy or distaste for the entire industry, mostly because of people like you. But everything's great, and if you criticize it, well, that's just because you're being a big meanie. Like, nah, man. What big AAA games actually hit last year? Now, take a look at all of the Game of the Year award nominees. They either came out of China or they were indie games. They came out of Asia or they were made by one guy in his apartment. AAA gaming in the West fucking floundered. And you guys only have yourselves to blame. But you won't. You'll just continue to blame gamers. Seeing so much glee about canceled projects is just gross. No, we want to have our IPs respected and we want good games to come out. And the fact that Slop is being canceled, yeah, that being applauded, that's a good thing. And then you got stupid Alana. Yeah, I hate it, fam. People who want games to fail are tourists. Really? Really? We got Alanah Pearce telling us what are tourists. Okay, fake gamers, the lot of them. Right, because you don't want to suck down the slop. You're a tourist. You're a fake gamer. People who spend all day on Twitter, YouTube, arguing about what games should or shouldn't have in them are fake gamers, 1000%. You know, people discussing the medium about what makes it good, what makes a game good, what makes for a successful video game. Those are fake gamers. Those are tourists. They really love... Oh, if they really loved games, they'd be busy playing stuff they actually like to bother with any of this stuff. Right. Because apparently you can't walk and chew gum. Like, I can see your roots to know that you're not a natural blonde, so I wouldn't accuse you of that. It's just your critique of the modern gaming landscape would ring a little bit more true if you weren't, once again, just simply projecting your own insecurities out there. Because regardless of the method used to draw this is my original artwork and not referenced as a source from the beginning. That gave the impression that was her original drawing, and no, it didn't take me 45 minutes. It took me 3 days. Yeah, because Alanah Pearce is an art thief. Alanah Pearce is a tourist. Alanah Pearce is a phony. Hey, look at her. Look at her. She's a phony. I'd also like to be clear that I deleted it out of respect when I figured out that I had an issue with it. Oh, okay. It was a different language and it was hard for me to tell. I wasn't trying to cover up anything. It was just removing the faults, knowing I'd contact you in the morning. Even though she posts on Instagram, smashed out one a very scribbly shinobi when I waited for WoW Classic to download. Yeah, she's trying to pass that off as, hey, look at the art that I created. Done with Derwent pencils and a black Copic marker and trusty old printer paper. Took me about 45 minutes for Sekiro. Oh, look at that. I just smashed out a Sekiro drawing all by myself while I waited for another game to launch because, hey guys, I'm a real gamer out here. She's a real gamer, right? Because she posts her tits all over everything and then just says, hey, look at that. I worked on a cookbook for God of War because she works at Santa Monica Studios. It's chicks like this make me go so hard on simps in the industry. Okay, it's like, wait, what? That seems like a very hard turn. No, it totally makes sense because she is utterly talentless. Okay, like let's keep it a buck. She's an art thief and she works on a cookbook. Okay, at least we know that she can do some womanly things. I give you that. But if there were guys that were actually good with women in the industry, okay, back when it was just a bunch of dudes in their garages working for years on something, okay, the old id Studio crew or id Software, John Romero, John Carmack, okay, those guys just being sweaty working on Doom, working on Wolfenstein. That's when shit was great. When Rare Studios was cranking out all of the shit that they were. The moment that they became successful, thoughts like this came around in order to try to get a foothold in the industry, using what they have, using their very ample assets to get a foothold in. And then the moment that they do, they pull up the ladder, slam the door shut, and tell everybody else that they're fake gamers while they're ruining the industry. Alanah Pearce is a cancer. Auditorial wise and conversationally, just absolutely devoid of a logic and argumentation. And in about 5 years, she will join that exact same camp from a visual perspective. Because while those things might be thangin' right now, eventually they will point directly at the ground. Coincidentally, the same way that her career trajectory will be going. So yeah, continue to cheer on flops in the industry, because that's the only way that things are going to turn around here. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.